Board of Trustees, roll call, please.
Trustee Wachowski.
Here.
Trustee Benucci.
Here.
Trustee Lamb.
Here.
Trustee O'Rourke.
Here.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here, if we could rise for the pledge. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Presidential comments.
I just have one quick, I just want the audience to know, and those that are watching television, that the condition of some of our trustees up here is not because of any citizens' attacks or anything, but just conditions. So, and that's all I have.
Trustees' comments.
I guess I just had a question, maybe to the mayor, or maybe to Jonathan. It goes back to, I think, a past meeting that we had. I think it's probably been almost a year ago. We talked about maybe adding some items to the special use category and classification. We had a joint meeting with the Planning Commission, and I was just wondering if there's any timeline on the horizon for us to be able to review that or put that formally into action.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just address that briefly, you're correct. We did have a joint meeting with the Plan Commission and the Village Board in January to the start of this year. And so development activities picked up quite a bit this year. And so I've had my hands full. We've also gone through the process of interviewing and hiring for a new economic development specialist, the 2 candidates for the Plan Commission, and as well as staff planner position, which we hope to fill here within the next week or so. So I think that'll free up some additional workload, and I would expect that comprehensive set of zoning code amendments to be before the Village Board certainly within the next 60 days.
Thank you.
I had a quick one. I don't want to put Ms. Pleckham on the spot. Usually I would, Mr. Murphy was there, I'd ask him if we were any closer to getting these packets put up online, or if the software was available at the current time to do that.
I'm aware that that's in the process of being discussed as far as what platform and how we're going to put that online. So the clerk and the IT director have been discussing that in the last couple of weeks. Timeline, I think it's relatively soon based on the recommendations that come out.
Yeah, we're shooting for the fall timeframe.
Well, okay, thank you.
But just so you know, too, that this little packet that we have tonight actually works out to 184 pages. Just so you know. So that has to be input by either IT or Mrs. Givas. And this is just a little packet.
Mayor Collins brought attention to a medical problem of one of the members on the board. All my, well, his is insignificant. Mine is really severe. Long story longer. All my life I heard, keep out of the sun, wear sunblock, don't get a suntan, protect your bald spot. Long story longer, I didn't listen to any of it. And so I am putting a dermatologist child through college right now. Listen to all those things. Do what they say and protect yourself. Today I got a 4-inch cut on my neck. Someone probably said that someone probably attacked me, which is a possibility, but it wasn't. It was a dermatologist. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other trustee comments? If not, this would be the time for public comments. Please.
And if you just step right up and just state your name, sir.
Yes, my name's Ed Kozierowski. There's 3 of us here from the Villas of Fox Run, and we have some concerns concerning Wilcox Development. Wilcox Development is near the end of their term. I know it's a PUD, and some numerous issues have PUDs, and I used to be on the village board up in Northland, up in Antioch, where Mike went. And we thought we had resolved some issues, and speaking with Mike, and all of a sudden Mike, he was the planner, I believe it, and all of a sudden Mike packed up and left. And so here we are in the same situation. Right now we have approximately 50 trees that were on the PUD that are non-existent on the property itself. We have the final lift for Fox Run Circle that hasn't been done. We have a wetland up in front on the entry that the village wanted Wilcox to put in. They did not maintain it, therefore there's cattails in there, and we have to spend a slight fortune of our own money currently to upgrade it to something presentable that you people would enjoy, and we would enjoy especially. We were missing 2 aerators and a bubbler. We finally got them last week or 2 weeks ago. All we're looking for is for the village to back us up before they give him back the bond money. He has 1 bond left for $190,000, we believe. We would like, he also has to do curbing, along with when they were doing the final homes, they tore up the gutters. We think they're gonna use a latex cement on it. We aren't certain, but knowing them, they're gonna try to get away with the cheapest way possible, and it's not just gonna fall apart in a little while, and we're gonna wind up paying for that again. All we're looking for is for the village, before they relinquish any money to Wilcox Development, to go through and scrutinize the whole development itself. The Village of Plainfield be whole, and the HOL be whole, our community will be whole. And that's basically our request. I know a couple other gentlemen here, I have some comments to say about what they had problems with. There's one involving the inspectors, where that how they got a home occupancy permit is incredible. So if you don't mind, I will pass it on to somebody else. Do you need a spelling of my last name, by the way?
That would be nice, sir.
Okay. It's not a common name. It's Koziorowski, and the first name's Ed, and I'm the treasurer of the HOA.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Ed.
very much.
My name is Jim Sasak, and I've been arguing back and forth with Wilcox. He's got to put my water heater in front of my water heater is a gas line that comes from the attic, right in front of my water heater. So if that water heater goes out, I've got to take all the piping and turn it off at the street, the gas, in order to change the water heater. Secondly, the electric, when my air conditioning comes on, the whole box rattles, and I get the big, not a big, but like a bang every time the air conditioner goes on. I talked to him about that, and he said that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, a couple of the guys that moved in before I did, they talked to him, and he had to replace the wiring, because they put in 10 and it should be 8, I was told, because of the length of the distance that it goes from the electric to the air conditioner. And that's all I had. Last name, S-A-S-A-K.
Well, I'll tell you what, gentlemen, if you could give a contact number to Mr. Prue, he will get in contact with you, and we'll see what we can do for you. But we try not to let those bonds go if there is issues like this on any of our developments. So, okay, well, if you get a contact number with them, sir,
And Mayor,
yes,
We-
thank you.
we'd be happy
They've
to
been working on it.
facilitate a meeting with the homeowners this week and talk over the concerns. And of course, we do have a bond on this project, and we won't release it until all the work is completed.
Thank you, Alan.
I think it's their final bond. I'm almost positive it is.
Okay, sir.
Mayor Collins, John Prue's been working on this, so he's been working hard trying to get the developer to complete this. Do you want to give an update? Okay, thank you.
One of the problems originally was, I believe, the street that's not paved was not a village street. We tried to avoid that as much as possible. This we gave in because limitations on space, but I think it points out that everybody's better off if the village takes responsibility. We do take care of our streets, so.
Are there any other public comments? Not, then we'll proceed with the business meeting. We're seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke,
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda to include minutes of the board meeting held on July 18th, bills paid and bills payable reports for August 1st, and ordinance number 3274, decreasing the Class E liquor licenses to 5 and the Class K liquor licenses to 16.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve items A through C under the consent agenda. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke,
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is DNA Athletics, 24210 West Lockport Street. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a certificate of appropriateness for a proposed new 3,200 square foot building at 24210 West Lockport Street in the village's downtown historic district.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
I had a question, I'm sorry. I think there's two different plans that show two different access points, one's from the rear and one's from the front.
Correct. So the site plan review that's being presented for considerations this evening has a driveway access from Lockport Street. It would, the proposal is to modify an existing driveway apron and curb cut that serves the dentist to the east of the subject site here. So that driveway apron would be expanded to the west to allow for a parallel driveway along the east property line of the subject site here. Staff would acknowledge that's probably not ideal. It wouldn't be our first choice, you know, if we had complete control of the situation. So our intent is to continue working with the property owners to the east and to the north to see if we can reach some type of shared access agreement. But having said that, the contract purchaser feels it's very important that they have at least some assurance that they would have access for a limited amount of employee parking and loading and deliveries to the rear of the property. So they're seeking approval of that driveway cut from Lockport Street and reconfiguration of the existing driveway apron. If the board were to approve the project, staff would continue to work with the contract purchasers and the adjacent property owners to see if we could reach some sort of agreement that would provide for some more ideal access to the proposed parking to the rear.
Are we better off waiting until you have that agreement before we approve the project or not?
Unfortunately, just due to the nature of the project here, this is an existing business. They're looking to relocate, so they have you know, a certain timeline to be able to relocate. They are under contract on the property. The existing property owner, you know, has a reasonable timeline and expectation to dispose of the property. So there are some timelines at play which prompt the applicant to seek approval this evening.
I understand their sense of urgency. They'd like to get going, but I'm concerned. They've known about this access issue for some time. Is the adjacent homeowner or adjacent owner not cooperating or not?
Staff has participated in discussions with each of the property owners to the east and to the north, and we would hope to continue those discussions. And understanding that the project, if the project's approved, that might generate some urgency to reach a resolution. So it's an ongoing effort.
So worst case, if it doesn't get approval to use a neighboring cut, basically they'd have to add another driveway cut to Lockport, correct?
Yeah, and I know the plans don't extend like out to the center line of Lockport Street, for example. So the proposal isn't to have a parallel driveway extend all the way out to Lockport Street, which would really impact at least one on-street parking space. There's a fire hydrant, there's a street light there. I think they would try and modify that existing cut, kind of swoop in to have it's very narrow, be a 12-foot drive aisle to provide access to the rear of the property there. So
Enough right of way in that sidewalk area to be able to do that, you think?
well, they have a plan that's it's certainly under review, and you know, any site plan review approval is subject to compliance with the requirements of the village engineer. So if we were for some reason to identify that that's not workable at the end of the day, then we would need to come up with that more optimal solution.
The other question I had was regarding it, so it's a two-story, 3,200 square feet or something. Is there any thoughts or any concerns about, I think it's being used as one tenant today, but in the future, if like the second story became like a rental apartment, is that any concern for us?
Well, how it's proposed right now, it does have multiple access points to the upper floor. It's the applicant's intent to utilize that space in the front for training, social gatherings, things related to their retail running shoe business on the ground floor. So it's not set up for a rental type of use. There's not a bathroom per se, and so it's not, the building plans don't reflect a dwelling unit on the upper floor. So there's kind of a flex room to the front. There was storage to the rear. Having said that, a second floor residential use would be permitted. As we have, on the farther east on Lockport Street, we have a handful of apartments above our retail shops.
Back to the certificate of appropriateness. I applaud the use of smart side siding. I think it's much better than the other material. They talked about the a certain amount of lamping, though. We don't have a signed letter from the applicants. They agree with that? Go with the spacing?
That's correct. So the Historic Preservation Commission had a special meeting last Tuesday to be able to keep the project on track and come before the village board this evening with their recommendation for the certificate of appropriateness, concurrently with the Plan Commission's recommendation for site plan review approval. We met with the applicant's team on Monday, and they provided all the details of the products and specifications that are proposed and are agreeable to what's presented.
Okay, are they agreeable to the second part, color, the earth tone color?
That's not a requirement of the.
No, it's not a requirement, but it was a suggestion. I was at the meeting, so I understand suggestion, not a requirement, but I think it made good sense from my point of view. Are they likely to accommodate that?
I have not had that discussion yet with the applicant, so.
They're back there. Do you want to ask them or not?
Certainly, if the board wishes, comfortable handling that.
Well, the third item is they recommended a cornice, metal cornice, to make it look more like the other buildings downtown. I also think that's a good idea, but again, have no feedback from the applicant as to whether they're going to seriously consider those. They're suggestions, not mandatory, but it would be nice. And the question is, what's their response to that? You don't have that yet, I gather.
We haven't had that dialogue yet.
I guess I'd like to see that, but okay.
I have a question for you, Jonathan. In the analysis, there's a discussion of existing driveway. There's a dentist's office to the east. Have they come to an agreement on using that particular driveway? Is the dentist or who's ever renting in that particular site, are they allowing this to be a common driveway?
No, at this point, there is not an agreement to share that driveway. So the applicant's proposal is to have their own driveway, which would be on the east property line of the subject site, the building that's proposed for approval this evening. And then that driveway would kind of tee in to share the existing driveway apron.
Is there a proper space for a driveway there? That's an awful small parcel of property.
It's definitely not ideal, and we're hoping that we can work out shared access. That's our first choice, that we can continue those discussions with the adjacent property owners and find a better solution.
Okay, thank you.
Jonathan, you said it's at least 12 feet. Is that what, did I hear you say, did I hear
That's
you correctly? 12 feet?
Are there any other comments or questions?
I guess I'll go back to Mr. Lamb's concern. Does anybody, other trustees have the concerns as well about maybe adding the suggestions more as a requirement? Or at least maybe getting the feedback from the applicant to see if they're willing to do that?
I'd like to see the feedback. Yeah, it's a suggestion, but no response is a no answer to me, and I'm not happy with that. So I think they're very legitimate suggestions. That's why we go through the HPC and have their recommendations and their thoughts. And
Please. Are you okay with that, Mayor?
Yeah, but I just find it,
Pickleball tel-
step right up in just one second, sir, but
or
a lot of
tells right
times we
there.
don't actually take the position of what color we're putting.
recommendation,
I'm just saying, we usually don't recommend a color to a building. I just find that sort of a unique request. but-
HPC though, they try
Well,
to
the-
match the downtown appearance. And
Well, the
they work very
HPC
hard
is
to get
here.
the
Why, we could have
match it.
Michael Bortle speak.
You know, it's,
Okay. Sir, if you could just identify
ask him.
yourself, please.
My name's David Mitchell. I guess I'm
Mr.
the
Plan.
architect and applicant on the job. I'm unaware what questions or what questions are open at this point. Jonathan, is that something that came about with the last meeting? I mean,
Sure. So, just for discussion purposes, we met, staff met with two members of the Historic Preservation Commission on Monday, and we came to agreement on the products and specifications that were used. As part of the discussion before the Historic Preservation Commission at this special meeting on Tuesday, which the applicant was not able to attend just due to timing and travel schedule conflicts, there was discussion among, one or two commissioners relative to some preferences to building color, which is outside of the purview specifically of the Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation for approval, but it was an individual preferences articulated, and as well a suggestion about the cornice incorporating a manufactured ornate cornice that would be a replica or similar to some of the more ornate cornices found elsewhere on Lockport Street. So the commission, I think, stressed that those were simply ideas for consideration and not part and parcel of their certificate of appropriateness recommendation. So they were kind of above and beyond
Share this?
recommendation. Sure, certainly.
I agree there were suggestions, but usually in the past, we've had people who don't like our suggestions. They don't mind saying so. If he doesn't like it, I'd like to at least know what we're talking about, and apparently he doesn't, so let's see what happens.
well, as far as the color, yeah, I'm sure the building owner wouldn't have any issues with that. And again, the colors that we put together were just more for, I mean, it is still conceptual design, but we're trying to, let the Historic Preservation Committee know that we want to make them happy. I mean, the building owners are interested in this site because they want to be downtown. They were looking at a former or an existing building. They like the historic look. I mean, so we're working with Jonathan and the Historic Preservation Committee on that. So that is not an issue. Not that we can decide a color right now, but that's not a problem. And then we do have a metal cornice. So you're referring to the coping, I'm assuming, that the top of you guys are referring to a metal cornice around the parapet. So on the two sides that we have, the siding, it is metal. On the front, I actually had it shown with a precast stone coping to be, more masonry based. But I mean, if that's a matter of continuing that with the metal coping, we'd be happy to do that as well. And then the arches over the windows should be brick and not just flat trim. Those are brick. The way they look on that is just a rendering thing, but those would be arched brick, again, just to give that historic look. And then up in the masonry cornice there, we do have that stepped out in between the pilasters and that for that historic appearance as well. So yeah, I mean, those three issues there, and then the first issue being the LP siding with the 4-inch exposure, I don't see a problem with any of that.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate your feedback, because that was, you don't have to necessarily agree, but if you can do that,
Sure,
that's
no,
fine, because I think they're
we're
very
open to
seriously
that.
looking at the situation, so.
Yep, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, there was a motion made and seconded to approve a certificate of appropriateness for a proposed new 3,200 square foot building at 24210 West Lockport Street in the village's downtown historic district. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke,
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve the site plan review for a proposed 3,200 square foot building at 24210 West Lockport Street, subject to the stipulations noted in the staff report.
So moved.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Now I'll proceed with the roll. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke,
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Administrators report,
No report.
Management Services report,
No report.
Engineers report,
No report.
Planning Department report.
Thank you. I did have one item this evening, and it's related to the outdoor dining for Mora Asian Fusion downtown. Mora has been open for a number of months now, I think to great response. It's, in my opinion, at least brought a number of people into the downtown who perhaps haven't been to downtown Plainfield before, so it's created definitely an additional restaurant option for the community. And they've developed some unique outdoor dining, the patio and the tables and chairs, all handmade by the owner. They did propose a structure that's not really addressed in our outdoor dining guidelines. Our guidelines have regulations or guidelines for the types of fencing, the types of tables and chairs and umbrellas, but the owners have proposed a pergola, essentially a vertical shade structure that would really, the primary purpose would be to provide some relief from the sun on this area. And as the board knows, the north side of Lockport Street experiences quite a bit more sun than the south side of Lockport Street. Because this type of structure really isn't addressed in the outdoor design guidelines, staff felt it would be appropriate to receive direction from the village board on whether this is something that could be incorporated in our seasonal outdoor dining permit. What you see here, we have a couple pictures, and I know the building owner is here as well to potentially answer questions the board may have. It is a temporary structure. The owners identified that it can be removed in a short period of time, i.e., an hour or so. But given that it's not specifically addressed in the outdoor design guidelines, staff was not comfortable signing off on this administratively. In my opinion, there are some considerations as to whether this type of structure would be appropriate on the public sidewalk, essentially as part of the village's right-of-way. Taken in a vacuum, I think it's a very attractive structure. I think it's effective in providing the shade objective that the owner intended. But given the specific location out on the public sidewalk, staff felt it was appropriate to get some direction from the village board on whether this specific structure is acceptable. And moving forward, if additional requests were to come in, if the board would be comfortable reviewing those on a case-by-case basis. So that's really staff's introduction. As I said, I believe the owner is here, should the board have questions of the building owner.
John, I looked at this and when I was driving here, and actually the picture's a little deceiving. There is a pretty good walkway past it there. I think it's a creative way to make use of this whole building, and the whole design of it inside and out is a very creative way to take a very small venue and do some really nice things with it. I think it looks nice. Especially if it's something they really had to move, could be moved. I think I like it, and I think that it's something different. We have all the umbrellas and that, and the umbrellas wouldn't fit on this property, just the nature of it. So I think it's a very creative way to make that restaurant even nicer. So,
John, I also agree with Trustee Benucci on the aesthetics of the project. My question is if this is a removable structure and it appears to be not light, how would the inspection schedule be? If this is removed, would we have to have inspectors go back out when he puts it back up just to make sure it's safe for the general public, or does he take that liability all on himself in doing this?
Well, I can address your question in a couple of respects. I know, like the umbrellas that some restaurants have would be, potentially more at risk of like severe weather and so forth. I've actually been downtown when, high winds will come through and you know, staff would submit this is a lot safer, probably a lot sturdier than some of the umbrellas that you know, could be a cause for concern. Relative to liability, the owners also are required to you know, indemnify the village and provide a certificate of insurance naming the village as an additional insured. So we have some you know, coverage in that respect. To this point, coordinate with the building official. I don't believe a building permit, you know, that this has been done pursuant to a building permit. And if the board's comfortable with this remaining, that we could pursue that and verify if this type of improvement required a building permit, that we would follow that inspection procedure with each removal and
I would like to see some inspection procedures. Quite honestly, I'd rather get hit with an umbrella than a heavy structure like that if it was going to fall on me. I'm just saying.
I would concur with that. I like what I see. I think it's a good, nice looking outside seating area. My concern would be the similar as you described, is the weather. So if we get severe weather, how is that anchored down and what's going to stop it from blowing over? And I guess that's where maybe an inspection would come in. And then you said it was renewable, so that would theoretically come down at the end of the season.
Correct. So all of our outdoor dining permits are valid at their somewhat arbitrary dates, but April 1st through November 30th, just to be clear that it's the furniture can't remain out, you know, through the winter time when we're focusing on snow removal and, you know, there's not a demand for it. So yes, this pergola, the shade structure, would come down seasonally and would.
The only other comment I would have is around the ADA, just so that we make sure that there's, you know, sufficient room for people with disabilities to get through and around, and that's on. With the inspection, I think it works nice.
A concern I have in regard to Mora doing what they did, it says in our particular report, Mora is proposing, that's future, and in fact has constructed past a pergola that extends in the public right away. We have a situation in downtown Plainfield. Outdoor dining is very popular, and it is very creative, and I do encourage it. But I'm just going to name a couple other places in Plainfield that have outdoor dining. Uptown, Hopscotch and Vine, Mojo's, Front Street. They have to follow guidelines to not go too forcibly into the public right away, or we tell them to get moved back. Where do we stop? If we permit this, then why not go to the street and have people just walk through your particular area? I want the board to be to realize that situation, because someone in the future will say, how come I can't go to the street line itself? And I think this has to be investigated where the correct spot is for the placement and enforce it. Thank you.
John, is this proposed placement currently within the outdoor dining area, or does it extend any further into the sidewalk than we've already approved?
Yeah, so thanks for the chance to clarify that. The request this evening is simply for the shade structure, the pergola. The actual fence placement is placed pursuant to an outdoor dining permit. It does meet our clearance requirements for accessibility. In fact, the owners modified the layout just a little bit to provide some additional room around. You can see there's a fire hydrant there.
It's
and
not encroaching.
signs are placed.
So it's not-
They pulled back the fencing. So
That's not an
the
encroachment,
fencing does
then fine.
comply. You know, staff's request for some direction was specific to the shades.
Okay, so
Okay.
it doesn't encroach an inch more into the current sidewalk. Thank you.
I'd also like to add that Jonathan goes up there and actually measures
Oh, I know.
all these. I mean, just like Mr. Rassich brought up on all the places that do utilize this, they try to encroach a little bit, and Jonathan goes up there and corrects them. So he's very vigilant with that.
Yeah, because there's one there that's a little close as it is right now.
You know, and a final thought on just the outdoor dining. This is one of the features that makes Plainfield very special, and we have to encourage this particular action of having outdoor dining, in my estimation. But yet, we also have to have the right of way for people to be able to walk by safely. And if someone constructs something, as Trustee O'Rourke said, how is it fastened? How is it safe? Because this area is known for high winds and damaging situations. We have to take all of that into consideration. And I support it. I like the whole idea of outdoor dining.
My main issue is the spacing, and if Jonathan has measured, it meets all of our standard requirements, and I'm comfortable with it. I think it looks attractive. It fits this particular building. I would not be as happy seeing this, the rest of Lockport Street, though. I'd rather see the umbrellas, which are much more traditional for a streetscape. But this is a standalone building. It's a small building. I think it fits. It's an extension of it. President Minucci said it's a creative approach. So, yeah, approve this, but I hope we don't make this something everybody else wants to do, because it's not appropriate for many other places in town, in my opinion.
One last thought: is the proposer individual who is owns Mora? Are you in attendance tonight?
Yes, yes.
Right there.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to. I'm just going to make a comment to you, sir. I truly have seen this building for 20 plus years. I think it used to be the old Plainfield Jail. I never could believe that someone could ever take that facility and turn it into a success, and I really have to compliment you on doing so. It's that's why I say we have to cooperate with you, and you cooperate with us, because you really did a great job on that. In addition to that, I hear very positive remarks about the quality of food you serve. It's a real nice addition to the village of Plainfield. Thank you.
I guess my last comment would be, I like the idea how it's kind of split, so it's not the full pergola all the way across, because I know we spend a number of dollars on our facade reimbursement program, so it's kind of nice to be able to still see some of the facade even with that other structure up. So, nice job, thank you.
You worked there.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Tell everybody.
Not, we're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve the outdoor dining pergola shade structure for Amora Asian Fusion at 24108 West Lockport Street.
So moved.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
I'm sorry, I have just for clarity, so will there be anything tied to that now? Will there be an inspection, or will there?
Certainly, I will work with the building official tomorrow morning to clarify the permitting requirements for that, and coordinate with the building owner as well.
Thank you.
Building Department report. Public Works report.
Thank you. I have 3 items on the agenda this evening for the board's consideration. The first item is actually, if you recall back to the budget discussions, we had 3 projects that we talked about as part of this too as well. The Lockport Street Refresh downtown was one, which is kind of a continuing program that we have downtown. The Village Hall parking lot, which actually hosts over 100 cars every day here, and it's a pretty popular place, as well as the Public Works parking lot, which also holds 115 cars in that area too as well. So with that, down in the Lockport Street area, since there seems to be a theme tonight about Lockport Street, so timing is perfect. Down on Lockport Street, the proposal here, the bid proposal here, was to not only do the resurfacing of the asphalt down there in that area to refresh the downtown, but also replace landscaping, replace some of the electrical work that's not working right now, the lighted bollards, the lighted planters underneath, to do some replacements there too as well. And there's also some concrete and a little bit of water main work that needs to be done downtown. This would all be done as part of this project, and the refresh would be completed. There's some pavers that need to be reset as well. It takes a lot of foot traffic, and it takes a lot of vehicular traffic down there too as well. So this would be finished up as part of this project if approved this evening. The second part is the Village Hall parking lot right out here behind us. It's a little over 15 years old. It is settled and doesn't drain as well in certain areas. This becomes problematic, especially in the wintertime with icing and things like that. So there's some little bit of storm sewer work adjustments that need to be done, and then resurfacing work for this parking lot, as well as very similar treatment to the Public Works parking facility too as well. The reason why we combine the 3 projects is to get the best possible price on asphalt, and you can see that with the low bidder. It's kind of coupled with the price of oil right now, and oil is coupled with the price of gasoline. It also, it does provide some benefits as far as asphalt costs, but you can see it's significantly lower in asphalt costs, and we do receive a better price by bidding all 3 projects together. That being said, the low bidder provided a bid that was 16.5% below the engineer's estimate. The low bidder is Deconstruction. Approximately half of the funds are to be utilized from the TIF and to be utilized along Lockport Street, and the other half would be split between the two parking lots without getting into the actual breakdown of all the information. So staff is recommending award to the low bidder, Deconstruction. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments or questions?
I just had a question that I think we chatted a little bit about, but just, I guess, for the audience. So my initial concern was, the question came up, how old is Lockport Street and how old is a typical resurface last? And I think you had indicated that resurfacing can last probably between 15 and probably 20 years. And it's approximately 10 years old since it was done. But I think you'd mentioned under extenuating circumstances beyond just the age of the asphalt is kind of driving that redo, I guess. So can you just chat a little bit about what the other elements are and the need to resurface that area?
Lockport Street is unique. It does receive quite a bit of vehicular traffic, which does tend to provide additional wear to the roadway. The parking configuration down there encourages people to turn their tires on the asphalt while they're stopped or near stopped. That does provide a toll on the asphalt as well. And then there are some utility things that we need to take care of out there. So it would be best, there's quite a bit of concrete out there, but it would be best to take care of the asphalt at this point, we believe, to preserve the rest of the base and the other concrete in the area too as well.
Thank you. And then last question on the parking lots at the Public Works. Is it strictly the parking lot, or does it include the side and rear lot of that building as well?
It is the front parking lot, and that's really what needs attention in that area.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, we're seeking board consideration of a motion to authorize the village president to award the Lockport Street resurfacing, Village Hall, and Public Works parking lot improvements to Deconstruction, the low bidder, in the amount of $655,368.96.
Moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. The second item that I have is actually related to the cow discussion that we had last week here in this very room. We had two individuals from IMS that did a presentation, talked about the type of work that would be completed as part of this. And in essence, it is going out and surveying every square foot, we'll drill it down to the actual foot, of pavement within the entire road network within the entire village. The option that was selected in the contract was to do the deflection testing of all roadways within the community. That gives us the best information. And with this data, what we do is we project out our 5-year plan as to what we're going to do in the future. There was a question that was forwarded about what basically had been completed since 2011 to now, and I think that's a very valid question. All the roadways that were in the very poor, or fair condition have been resurfaced since 2011. And in fact, we've completed almost 50 lane miles of roadway. And I'm pleased to say that in 2011, we resurfaced 7.6 lane miles of roadway. The board was able to dedicate some additional funding for roadway resurfacing. Last year, we resurfaced 14.2 lane miles of roadway. And this is a good trend because if we look at it, as Trustee O'Rourke had stated, about a roadway lasting about 20 years, we should be in that 15 to 20 lane miles per year to keep up with a regular maintenance schedule. And one of the things to take into consideration is that about half of this community was constructed in a period of about 8 years. And so half of the roadways were finished in that short period. And Mrs. Pleckham had mentioned this at the last meeting too as well, that it was our concern internally that if there wasn't a regular program for resurfacing and a regular program for reevaluating the streets, that we would get behind and that 5 years from now or 8 years from now, we'd have to bring the bad news to the board and say, you know, we really need a tremendous amount of money to fix up our roadway. So this helps us keep up with that and gives us good guidance and direction. To add that as well, there was a question about curbing as well. I wanted to answer that question. I'm pleased to say in 2011, we replaced 976 lineal feet. Last year, we replaced 5,500 lineal feet. Over a mile of curbing got replaced last year. And with this data, they do pick up, because there was a question last week, they do pick up the presence or absence of curbing, missing sections of curbing. We would just have to go back and look at the tapes. They're not tapes, it's all digital format. Rick's giving me a funny look there. They're not on tape anymore, it's all digital format. The other thing important to mention is that this information would become the village's information, all of the raw data, including the report. There's a 5 years ago, we got a 100-page report that lists a rating for each segment of each roadway within the community, so we can evaluate what it compare it to from last year to, or from 2011 until now, and see where we're at and kind of look towards the future. So we have a lot of faith in this program, and again, if we're going to spend $10 million in the next 5 years, this will give us guidance as to spend it in the proper location. So I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Now, from my point of view, I strongly support the proposal you put forth, because I think as we discussed last week, the deflection part is about 65% of the value. So doing both pieces of it, I think, is valuable. The 2011 report had all that in there, and now we can compare it, as you just said, and see how our roads age and so on. So I think strongly support this proposal. I think you need this information in order to plan properly for maintaining the roads. As you say, we have a job ahead of us, and we want to stay on top of it. So I think it's a great start. So.
I think it's a good plan. My only question that I was trying to get resolved was whether it makes sense to reorder it this year or next year or the year after. In other words, do we need to spend the money this year? And the question I think that I was proposing, and I'll ask again just for the benefit of people listening, is, so when we developed a 5-year plan 5 years ago, how much of that did we kind of complete? In other words, do we still have 2 years left that we can be working on before we spend the update money? I guess was the answer I was trying to get answered.
Yeah, and I can't answer that with an exact percentage, but just to state that any roadway that was fair or poor was resurfaced, and we were about at the 50 lane miles for the past 5 years. And that, you know, what we see in other communities, a recommendation is to go through this study every 5 years, even if your program is what we would consider in our community maybe to be a substandard program, is to go through and find out if your average pavement was at a 79, which it was in 2011, has it increased in 80, 81, or has it dropped to 70 or 75? And I think that's good statistical data to give you some direction for the future. So I know I didn't answer your question specifically, but that's the information that we have. Trustee Overall.
One other question, sorry, that I have is on the services provided, the optional services talk about a comparison report. Did you not think that there was value in maybe asking him to do that? Because, I mean, when you sent out the report, I think it was over 100 pages long, which is fairly detailed, to try to compare that with the next 110-page report as well. So
that's a great question, and it does. It has tremendous value, but that's an item that actually our in-house staff and Engineer Threewitt is here this evening. They take great pride in actually doing it themselves. So they'll look at the spreadsheets, and then they'll go back and look at the data that was collected, the video data that was collected, and do their own evaluation. So we talked about it internally, and you know, we're already well trained on the software. We already know the widths of the streets. That's not a problem. Video storage, IT is more than capable of taking care of. And then the comparison report, I would agree with you, that was one that I was willing to really look at. But Engineer Threewitt felt they actually enjoy going through and seeing how we've done. And you'll receive that report once we collect the data and once we do the comparison as well.
Are there any Any other comments or questions?
Yes, I have one comment. This situation, oftentimes it is being funded through our motor fuel tax, which is a positive thing, and we have the funds for it. Napoleon once said, "Attention to details, the religion of success." And a situation that Alan is proposing to us, and our staff is proposing to us, is to attend to detail. We're looking at how we can maintain the physical quality of the village of Plainfield. You do know, obviously, everybody that's in this room understands what the climatic conditions are here. Freeze, thaw, the roads disintegrate. The quality of the village of Plainfield, in my estimation, is dictated in part by the quality of our roads. We always talk about the visual impact of the village of Plainfield and the effect that we have on our citizens through cultural events. Good roads are a basis, and we have to maintain them. And this is an excellent report, and I really applaud it, and I support it. Thank you.
Roads, the trash, and the services are what the average citizen experiences and will complain about on a daily basis if they're not up to par. I believe that this program, you're on top of things, Alan, and I would like to see the comparison with the roadways and how fast they deteriorate, as we talked about last week, so we could plan for the future, and if we need to budget extra money, we can. So I'm definitely in support of this project.
I am as well. I think you put people in place to do the job they know how to do, and you prove that every time, so I'm totally in support of this, Alan. Thank you.
I move that we approve the professional service agreement with Infrastructure Management Services for the 2016 pavement condition survey in an amount not to exceed $106,900 and authorize the village president to sign the agreement.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Brassich?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
And the last thing that I have, we did discuss at the last committee, the whole meeting here in this room last week. Baxter and Woodman has provided a proposal as to how they would approach the parking study for the downtown area. And the board really provided some valuable feedback. I'm going to turn it over to Derek here in a second, but really provided some valuable feedback because included within the proposal that's before you and some of the things that were mentioned, the board was interested in a count on cruise night, which I think was a great suggestion. We did talk internally about how to divide the classic cars versus the visitors downtown too as well, which I think is very important. So we're going to work on that, and that's worked into the proposal. A public meeting, I thought that was an excellent suggestion too as well. After the preliminary study and findings are completed, that we invite anyone and everyone, whether it's throughout the entire community or in the downtown area too as well, to come to this room or the community room and meet with us and let us know what they think about the proposal too as well. After that, it would return to a committee the whole meeting for the board for further discussion too as well, along with some analysis of some cost estimates for future improvements. Last but not least, we did have the parking app on there. We're going to have to get back to the board on that one. It's not in the proposal, but maybe in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Derek to answer any questions that you may have or anything you want to add.
You pretty much summed it up. There were a lot of good comments, so we did incorporate those. The cost for the parking garage, Alan mentioned, and the parking app we've mentioned. I think the other items you've highlighted and are in the proposal, but we'd be happy to answer any other questions.
I have a question on the potential parking lots here. I still don't. I mean, I can see like the electric parks, further down, like by the river, further out west here, closer to the riverfront property. But the small parking lot, is that really? Do you really feel that that's a good use of the money? Is that feasible? A little lot around Electric Park off of Vista Lane, and in the evenings and things like that, are people even going to know where that is? Are they willing to go there? Yeah, I just don't want that to be definite if it's and spend time on something that may or may not produce very much parking and not be in a decent location. I don't know how everyone else feels.
Yeah, it is a smaller location, but we did feel in working with Jonathan and Alan, it's worth including in the study and just seeing how many spaces we could get there and what the cost would be. It's not a tremendous effort to do that, but we thought it'd be worthwhile. And of course, if there's any other places we could add as well, these are some of the ones we came up with when we were brainstorming, but if there's another spot that comes up, we'd be certainly happy to add that. I think the largest amount of time, in addition to the field survey, on the project, we'll be putting together, kind of cost per parking spot, and then we can kind of apply it to some of the locations.
Said it before, I guess my concern is, again, I think I would look at it, and I think most people would say that we have a shortage of parking downtown, so I don't know spending the money to do a survey is gonna tell us anything different. I guess I was hoping maybe to save the money in the survey and use it towards actually creating the parking spaces, which I believe we need. It's just my thought.
Are there any other comments or questions? Now we're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a professional service agreement with Baxter and Woodman Engineering to complete a comprehensive study of parking space utilization downtown and develop concepts for future parking improvements at a total cost not to exceed $55,300.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
No.
Trustee Rassich?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Police chief's
Excuse me.
report?
Excuse me before I go. Do you want to comment on the Tiger Grant real quick?
Yeah, at least at this, we just got news on Friday. I've got good news and I've got bad news. I'll give you the bad news first. We got news on Friday that the village was not selected for the 143rd Street program for the Tiger Grant, at least not for this round. And that the valuable part of this, because there's a valuable takeaway, is we will meet with the individuals that helped to review the Tiger Grant. We'll take suggestions as far as how we can make the grant better. And we actually have 4 more opportunities in the future. Hopefully it only takes 1 more opportunity this time next year to reapply for the grant funding, but we did not receive that grant. I'll give you the good news, though. Friday was also a good day, too, as well. IDOT had the bid opening for the 127th Street project, and we'll bring that back at a future board meeting. The engineer's estimate was approximately $3.9 million. The low bidder came in at $2.7 million, so significantly over 30% lower than the estimate. That has a $2 million federal grant, so we are going to get this project completed within a year with a $2 million grant, and the village taxpayers here will basically only be out $700,000 to complete this multi-million-dollar project. So we got some bad news on Friday, but we also got some good news on Friday, and I'll follow up with a report related to that bid opening. But I know Mrs. Pleckham was all smiles because that will look very good on the auditor's report this time next year. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Police chief's report?
Good evening. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to accept the proposal from Umbrella Technologies to upgrade and enhance the security cameras, interview rooms, and access control systems at the police department facility at a total cost of $101,299. Just a little history on this project. We started looking at the police facility back in November in terms of upgrading some of the technology. It is a over 10-year-old building, and as you are well aware, technology does not move slowly when it comes to cameras and video. So we started looking at a couple of different vendors and a couple of different options about replacing cameras throughout the building. There are security cameras. There are also cameras which we term evidentiary cameras in the booking areas, and then also in the interview rooms. And then coupled with that is the access control system, the swipe cards to get in and out of certain secured areas. In meeting with several different vendors, Umbrella Technologies came with the lowest bid for this project. Apart from upgrading the systems, we're adding some new functionality to the interview rooms. In discussions with the detectives, there are certain cases that really haven't hit Illinois yet as far as they know, but if you don't have 100% coverage in the interview rooms, if there are blind spots, so to say, There are possible ramifications of, are the detectives standing in the back coercing the interviews or feeding them one way? So that we took that into consideration to have 100% coverage in the interview rooms. And then also, per chief's direction, we would like to establish a internet safe trading area. People sell things on eBay or on Craigslist or on Facebook groups, and chief would like to designate a couple parking spots in front of the building that are on camera, where we have very good recognition of who's there and license plates and stuff like that, so we can offer the residents a safe place to do those internet transactions. So you're not meeting at a gas station or Walgreens or going to somebody's house. You have a safe and secure place to do that. So that's another addition that we added to the scope of this project. The gentlemen from Umbrella Technologies are here behind me, the CEO and the VP. They have some very cool, innovative technology where in terms of cameras. They manufacture the cameras. They've created the technology. Their technology is actually licensed to other camera manufacturers. So we felt that being the low bidder was great, but we're also going straight to the horse's mouth to get the best product. I'd like to invite Tom Carnival up just for a few minutes to talk about his company, his technology, and then we'd open up to any questions.
Good evening, everyone, trustees and mayor. My name is Tom Carnival. I'm the founder and CEO of Umbrella Technologies. What Umbrella is a full-service system integration company. What we do is we design and engineer security platform technology that's open architecture that enables users to scale over time, but doesn't lock them into proprietary solutions inherently. Umbrella Technologies is actually somewhat of a sister company to our other company, Century 360. And Century 360 is a global manufacturer. I'm also the founder CEO of Century 360. I started it out of a basement about 12 years ago. And we now have an office. Our headquarters is in Plainfield, Illinois. We reestablished our headquarters from Naperville to Plainfield about 5 years ago. It's closer to home. I have my family here, my 3 boys. We've chosen to raise our kids here, and I don't want to drive into the city every day, and so we relocated engineering. We have an R&D lab actually in Plainfield where we're doing research and development on surveillance technology and intelligent video. But Century 360 is most known in this area for our 10,000 camera deployment with the city of Chicago and the Chicago Transit Authority specifically. We have in the city of Chicago probably around 12,000 cameras deployed. 10,000 of them were with the city, the transit agency. We also do work for the United Center, Blackhawks and the Bulls facility, the Office of Emergency Management for the city of Chicago. We work on special projects for CPD as well. We have global customers. Microsoft is one of our global customers. Other customers include JFK Airport and other. We are also in the long-going conversations with the O'Hare and Midway expansion security. So this was a really unique opportunity for me because I love Plainfield. I chose to start my family here, and we had we've raised a 9-year-old boy, we've raised a 6-year-old boy, and welcomed a new one to the world this year. And so this is where I have my family, and this was a really unique opportunity for me to and my company to bring our expertise to get the city of Plainfield to make sure that the people that are protecting our families are the ones that are going to receive the best technology available. And so we're really honored to be a part of this, and I'm excited to deliver results.
Very interesting. Whereabouts in Plainfield are you located?
So we are 119th and Route 59. So in the kind of industrial park there, we don't need retail space. We're a little R&D company. We're a tech company. There's not a lot here. Our biggest problem is trying to find the right talent, especially that's Illinois. We're trying to find software developers and talent to grow our company, but we're hidden way back in the confines of the industrial park behind Binny's there.
I go through there with some regularity to the HD Truck Supply, which can't
Sure.
be very far from where you are.
Yep.
So interesting. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question for you. On these On the proposal here, it says you have 24 indoor cameras. Does that include the lockup as well, where the processing area?
It does, the booking
Does?
area. Mhm.
And then it says you have 5 ceiling microphones. Is that just for the interview rooms?
That is just for the interview room, that's correct.
Is there a potential to put the microphones, the ceiling microphones, in the lockup as well? And the reason I ask this is quite a lot of evidence may come out, and I think that area of the police department is the highest liability area if, say, one of the arrestees was to get out of line and say one of our officers was injured. And I think it's important for that area to be mic'd. If we're going to spend $100,000 on a microphone system, how much more would it be to mic up the
The cameras are the ones actually proposed in the booking areas will support microphone input. So it's essentially adding a microphone input or an omnidirectional microphone in the ceiling, connecting that to the camera, and then allowing it to record. So it's nominal.
How much is nominal?
Oh,
Ballpark.
geez. So I have to calculate labor to pull the cables.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be under 3,000, somewhere in there. That's just a ballpark, but yeah.
I am in support of your project, with the caveat that that's included. Otherwise, I would have to say no for tonight and bring it back next week for me, and to propose it. I mean, if we're going to spend $100,000, why not spend the extra $2 for everybody's safety, and it's a lessening of liability for the village.
I agree. It makes sense. I just want to be very precise when I calculate a number.
understand.
That on
No, I appreciate the
impromptu
ballpark, I
on
really
the
do.
spot. I want to just give you a rough average. So.
Could it be handled with an amendment, that we approve it tonight and then handle the 2,000, or whatever the additional cost is? As a
Be able to
separate
handle
issue next
administratively,
meeting?
I believe.
Instead of delaying the whole thing?
And Trustee Wojciechowski, to address your concern, we don't have mics there now. We didn't think of that as a potential upgrade. We're concerned about the video quality. But now that we see that it's a thing, it's something.
In my experience, in my profession, we have them in New Lenox, and from my experience, when an arrestee knows he's being recorded and the officer tells him this is going to the judge, more often than not, the person will just sit back and be quiet and be compliant and be nice,
Yeah.
and everybody goes home safely that way.
I would also maybe interject to say that you should have some sort of a sign when
Yes.
the processing
Right.
is being taken and it's clear audio, video is recording in this area. I think that's an important variable that can be executed with little cost.
That's something we'll definitely add.
This is all coming out of the asset forfeiture funds?
That's correct.
How much do we have left in it? Last time I asked the question, it was about 100,000. I assume we have more than that at this point.
The last check, the chief ran the numbers, and accessible to us is upwards near $300,000.
Great. It's a good investment then. Okay.
How do we put that amendment on there then, Mr. Mayor?
I would agree with that. I'll defer to you. I've never been in a cell, so I wouldn't know, but I'll defer
I'd
to
like
the
that to be also, but
I'll
the-
defer to the experts on that one.
Expertise.
Are there any other comments or questions?
We can make a motion that includes that.
I'll include it. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to accept the proposal from Umbrella Technologies to upgrade and enhance the security cameras, interview room, and access control systems at the police department facility at a total cost of $101,299 plus the cost of microphones in the lockup area.
So moved. I like that.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wojciechowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Land?
Yes.
Trustee O'Rourke?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Thank you. That motion carries.
Can I ask a question, Rick? Is there any updates on the upgrades for this room?
That's my next project.
Oh, very
I'm sorry?
That's my next project.
Oh, okay.
I have dogged him and Mr. Murphy about that project for a number of,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Appreciate
you.
you.
Attorney's report.
No report, thank you.
Reminders.
August 2nd is the next planning commission. August 8th is the committee of the whole. The 10th will be coffee with the mayor, and our next village board meeting will be August 15th.
We're seeking a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.